Hey everybody, this is Jeff Amerine, founder and managing director of Startup Junkie. Startup Junkie is an entrepreneurial support organization. We're here to provide free services. We run accelerators. If you want to learn more about what we can do for you, check us out at startupjunkie.org. Hey everybody, Jeff Amerine here, and we're here for a very special episode of the Startup Junkies podcast. This is our 400th podcast.
Wow.
And we're here with some of the originals, Jon Cadieux, Caleb Talley, Daniel, Intern Supreme, and Matthew Ward. So all these folks have been on at different times. We weren't able to reel in Michael Eisman. He's doing whatever he does in Kansas City. He couldn't make it to the podcast. Guess it wasn't important enough. But what are we going to talk about, guys?
Whatever y'all want to talk about. I didn't really have an agenda. I didn't even bring a notebook to this one, which is
400 episods. So
kind of new for me and Daniel.
Give us the origin story on podcasting. How you got me roped into this game?
Boy, I don't know. I think you guys were looking for an office up in Bentonville.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we co-habbed with you for a while.
Yeah, and I kind of just got going with the shared office space up there. Do I need to move in closer?
Yeah, you got to be a fist away. You started this stuff and you don't even
I know, but this is different equipment. This is so much nicer. And we ended up, so Jeff and I were talking, and I had been doing a podcast, and this is I started a podcast, I think, in 2012, because I worked with remodelers and
he was like Tool Time Tim.
Okay. Yeah. But I worked with them on their
improvement.
businesses and stuff like that. I'd done that for years but for a different company. And so I came out of that and started my own thing. And I only did a handful of my own podcasts because I couldn't even stomach listening to them, let alone expecting anybody else. But I had learned how to do a podcast and push it up to Libsyn and some of the other stuff. And so Jeff and I started talking, and I said, you should do a podcast. And he goes, well, we should do a podcast. So the next thing you know, we're doing a podcast. And the first, 20, 30 episodes we did in my office, one of the meeting rooms I had up there. And we had a live studio audience.
A lot of times we did, yeah.
We had people who would just come in. And
it's just like, come in and hang out and listen to us be, dumb shits.
We get that occasionally in the window where people are just
what are they doing? Drinking and talking in the microphone.
We would promote it on social media and mainly on Startup Junkie, and people just show up, and actually one person, Cynthia Maggard, remember her?
Oh yeah,
she now works for my company, NWA Workplaces. And actually, I was just talking to her on the way down here, and I told her, guess what I'm going to do? Because she did our intro and our outro for the first 30 episodes or something. I don't remember. And I always bring this up when we do these centennial episodes, and that is that if you listen to the first 35 episodes, if you listened, we would record 3 at a time, and we would have guest A, then the next episode is guest B, and so forth. And so what we would do 3 at a time on a Friday afternoon, and we would drink beer. So episodes 3, 6, 9, and 12 were a little bit looser. And
always a little more fun.
We probably had a little bit of a slur in our voice and everything else, but it was a good time. We met some good people that
we did.
Some of them are still in business, some of them aren't anymore.
And that was 2015,
I think.
Man, so it's been almost 10 years.
Yeah.
400 episodes in 10 years.
Well, hey, on the front end there, what was best case scenario and worst case scenario with the podcast? Like, what were expectations with that?
I had zero.
We didn't have any expectations. We're just like,
zero.
hey, we can record this stuff and somebody might listen to it. Want to do it? It's like, yeah, okay.
And actually, really what it was an opportunity for him and I to get together and drink beer.
That was exactly it. Yeah. And we did have good conversations. But I mean, part of that is still kind of how we are today. It's unscripted. It's about the conversation.
Yeah.
Talking to interesting people.
And for me, I'm fairly new to the area. I moved here 15 years ago, but then I traveled for the next 3 years. I think my intro to meeting Jeff, I met you in 2012.
Yeah.
You were not really even doing Startup Junkie full time.
Very early. It was still part of Innovate Arkansas.
Yeah, and I think Jeanette was working with you.
Yeah.
And I met him at an NWAC deal on entrepreneurship, and went up, introduced myself, and I think who else was there was
maybe Keaton
Fayetteville.
Oh, Mo Elliott.
Wasn't he there?
Yeah, he would have been there.
Yeah,
it was some startup related something.
Yeah. And he was at that NWAC thing. But anyway, we actually ended up interviewing Mo at some point.
Yeah.
And but it ended up being a catalyst for me to meet a bunch of people because I didn't really know many people in Northwest Arkansas. And of course, hopefully a lifelong friendship with this guy here. And business partnerships and a couple of things.
Yeah.
So you never know. So as far as what my expectations were,
no expectations.
Zero.
It was still, this was kind of the beginning of the second wave of podcasts. They weren't brand new, but it was new enough that there, that not like today where everybody and their brothers got a podcast about something.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't like that. It was still pretty early, and we didn't have any expectations, but we did some pretty cool stuff early on. As an example, that very first year at the inaugural NWA Tech Summit.
That's right.
We had a booth set up and we were interviewing people there. Cool. And
I remember that. I forgot about that. And I think this is they're calling it the 10th anniversary, but technically
it's only 9.
It's 9. Yeah.
They don't teach math.
Wow.
But I already went through that whole thing.
We know the guys at the Pentonville Chamber, they don't, 9, 10, it's all the same. It might exaggerate.
Brandon, we love you. But I went through that whole thing with them. And they're like, but we've already been promoting it as 10. I'm like, oh, okay.
Too late.
But we know who the two keynotes were at that first Tech Summit, right?
Yeah. Karen Ann Terrell and
me. And
that's right.
And I was like the warm-up act for the Rolling Stones. It's like, we need somebody else. And I'm like, I was like, all these people, there's like 500 people in the audience. I'm like, all these people. And then I realized, they had to be here because the CIO for Walmart is going to speak. So I was like, I know what it's like to be the warm-up act for the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I remember they asked me to kind of open it up.
Yeah.
And I'd never spoken to anything more than like 20 or 30 people, and we had a room full of 500 people. So I remember in the lead up to it, Bill
you introduced me, didn't you?
I think so.
Bill Aiken?
No, yeah. No. Bill Aiken helped me with what I was going to say.
Oh, gotcha.
And that was something else too that helped me get to know a lot of people.
He gave you kind of the Ron Burgundy treatment, didn't he?
Who?
Bill. He gave you a bunch of shit that you shouldn't have said out loud.
Yeah.
It's like, read the teleprompter.
But I trusted Bill so much. Sure, I'll say it. No. And if you guys haven't had Bill on your podcast, have you had Bill?
I don't know. It's been a while.
Yeah.
We need to get him real.
Especially now.
He's had an interesting history.
Yeah. Well, then now what he's going to do, I'm not going to say it on live on TV, but you need to talk to him now.
He's not on the P. Diddy list anywhere, is he?
I think he's there to. He's the lube supplier.
I was about to say,
right? The guy had like 1,000
baby oil
gallons
vendor.
Yeah. We just now got your podcast banned from Apple Tune.
This is the advantage of the Centennial. They get the sort of unscripted.
Exactly. No, but Bill helped me tremendously in a lot of ways in the early days of the Tech Council and the Tech Summit when we got that off the ground. And then, Michael Palladino and Joe Somweber and so many good people and Jared Ramsey. He was in the early days.
Yeah.
And actually Kenny Tomlin.
A bunch of ties to Rockfish.
Yeah, and Kenny Tomlin was there.
Yeah.
Kind of on this outskirts, but he was, letting people at Rockfish get involved.
I never will forget, and I think it was at a Tech Summit when we were talking to Kenny Tomlin, and he's been on the podcast too. I actually missed it. He did an update with us. But he said something early on. He's like, we're talking about entrepreneurship, and he's like, there's only one thing I know for sure is that universities can't teach entrepreneurship. Don't waste your time. And I was teaching entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It's like, don't waste your time teaching entrepreneurship. Go learn accounting. Go learn marketing. It's like entrepreneurship is something you do. You can't learn it in school. I was like, well, thanks. You just pissed on my career.
So
that's all right.
I don't know if I ever told you this, but I agreed with him for a long time because,
you got to do it.
I went to college, but I never finished. And I have friends who have 15 degrees and still struggle in life, and one guy still lives
in the
his
basement.
Parents' house,
folks.
And but
probably has cats too.
Yeah, I would argue that the whole entrepreneurship it's about trying and failing more than it is having a perfect plan. Because if you have a perfect plan, that's only going to open you up for disappointment.
It's definitely about iteration, figuring out what works.
Yeah. And I mean, I swear, I know, by the way, the older I get, the more I realize how stupid I really am about everything. Because I look at all the opportunities I've seen, and I go, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my entire life. And then they end up selling it for like 16, a multiple of like 16. In the meantime, I put all my effort into some stupid thing, and I end up, having a garage sale to get rid of the darn thing.
Long hours and low wages.
Exactly. Yeah.
Man.
Are there any companies in specific you can think about that you didn't think were going to take off? That ended up taking off?
Yeah, I'm not.
Don't want to put you on the spot or anything to call anyone out.
Yes. So this guy would say Tesla, SpaceX, and whatever else. Elon. He's like, this Elon Musk guy's a total fraud. None of this shit's ever going to work. So you might have missed on that one.
Yeah, I did. A little bit. Yeah, and also though,
but you had conviction.
I also thought he was like the biggest snake oil salesman on the planet. I just kept waiting for the indictments to come his way. And so I had never bought, this is, 15 years ago.
Right.
I never bought a share of stock. I also said the same thing about Amazon in the 90s.
That'll never work.
Junk. Yes. I think I became an Amazon, I created an account in like 1996 or 97 or something. And at the time they were just books. Mm-hmm. And I just remember, I'll try it out, right? Mm-hmm. So I tried it out, created an account. This is stupid. Books? How are you going to make it on just selling books? And so I deleted that original account. And now I think my original account is 2001 or something like that, 2002, somewhere in there. But no, I mean, the list is far longer of my bad decisions and missteps than it is of the good choices.
Well, then that leads to my next question. What do you hate right now that you're not going to invest in?
Why? Because you guys all...
What just stinks?
I'm George.
What are the things that have no chance?
I'm George Costanza. You want to do the opposite of what George says.
It's a contrarian time.
It's like that Larry David commercial. It's like, nah.
Exactly.
Well, I think that was a crypto.com commercial too that Larry David did. So I don't think that
I think so.
That kind of cycled back around.
Well, crypto in general, I still think is a bit of a Ponzi scheme, but again, what do I know?
Kind of like USD.
What's that?
Kind of like our currency.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's all real.
It's all a big Ponzi scheme. How about you? What are your big misses and?
Oh man, things that I put money in and didn't work, or things that I didn't put money in that I should have.
Either or,
both.
Man, that's a good one. Man. Well, there's been a number of things. I mean, we probably don't have enough time to cover all the ones that are kind of smoking holes that ended up being cash incinerators, as Brett would say. I got into the telecom business at the wrong time. That was kind of business number one, kind of at the tail end of something called international callback when voice over IP was coming.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes. That was probably one. And then there's been some others where you kind of catch it at the right time.
Right.
But beer and cider sounded real good.
Yeah.
8-10 years ago.
It's not over yet. We're still in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just,
I would say in general, real businesses that solve a real problem, that have a decent business model, that can get to profitability, those typically work.
Yeah.
A good example of that, and I'm going to give him a shout out, former student, is Will Gilbrich and Franklin HVAC. So he was a guy that grew up in all the digital marketing related stuff. He was with DataRank. He was with Hayseed Ventures. He did all that. And you could see, well, this guy's going to have a career as somebody that really understands Aaron Ross and predictable revenue and how to build these sort of sales machines. But he came to me one day and he's like, I hate all this stuff. And if you know Will, he's got absolutely no filter at all. None. I mean, he'll tell you exactly what's on his mind. And he says, I'm going to go start a real business that solves a real problem. And so he said, HVAC is what I'm looking at. Yep. And I actually invested in that one. And that's a business that's gone from 0 to about $5 million in top line.
I love it.
And all they do, and you think about it is, you think about Maslow's hierarchy. There can be a lot of stuff going on in the world and a lot of things you think you need, but if that damn air conditioner is off when it's 98 degrees out, you're going to call somebody to fix it.
And you'll pay almost anything to get it fixed.
And you'll pay almost anything to get it fixed. And so they don't do new installations. They focus on service and maintenance. And he's built a killer business. Very disciplined, conventional business that's run extremely well.
I wrote
That's one I'm glad I didn't mess up.
So my background is I actually was a home builder and remodeler, and I owned a kitchen and bath remodeling company. And in 2004 or 5, I wrote a 1-page business plan that I was going to mimic Wayne Huizenga. And what Wayne Huizenga, do you guys know who he was? So Wayne Huizenga is famous for several things. Well, before that, he created Waste Management Company. And how he did that was, I think he got a degree from someplace, I can't remember, but he went down to Miami. And in Miami, before there were companies like Waste Management, there was, Caleb would have a truck and he would go 15 city blocks and knock on doors. I'll pick up your trash, blah, 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 right? That's the way it was done. Then 15 blocks the other way, somebody else was doing the same thing. And the way I understand it is he went to all of these people and said, hey, why don't we all join forces and we'll become one company. You'll all get an equal share and away we go. We take over all of the administrative, the billing, the whole thing, and all you guys do is drive your truck and pick up the truck. Because most people in the business world absolutely hate the administrative part. Entrepreneurs are great for visionaries, but they may not be great executioners or administrators or whatever. So he did that. That was one of the first things he did. The next thing is he founded Blockbuster Video. And say what you want about Blockbuster now. At one time, they ruled the world. They were the biggest in the United States
in the
anyway.
90s and early 2000s.
Yeah. And then Republic Automotive Group. He started that in, I think, sometime in the 90s, I think.
It's an excellent serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And the one thing about it that highlights is timing.
Yes.
A lot of entrepreneurship is about timing, catching the trend at the right time, riding the trend up, and then realizing when it's time to get out.
Yeah. And he, so I read somewhere how we did the whole waste management kind of build up. And I thought, you know what? I'd like to do that with HVAC and plumbing. And so I wrote a 1-page business plan to do it, but I was so busy. And then 2008 happened. And I was basically holding on for dear life to get through that because I was deep into remodeling and I was deep into land ownership and building in Florida, which is one of the hardest hit states. And so I basically that became so far down on my list. But I love anything trades because like he said, his name's Will.
Will Gilbert.
Like Will said, man, he's absolutely right. Most people will pay anything to get their air conditioner turned back on, to get that toilet unplugged, if the power goes out because their service panel caught on fire. I mean, you name it, that's the real stuff there. And it's not something you can have somebody in some other country dial up and, or a YouTube. You can't YouTube to figure out. I mean, you can on some of the stuff, but
I'm going to turn it around on Matthew because Matthew has been leading a lot of due diligence with Cadron Capital. Yeah. As you look at the last half dozen investments we've made in Cadron, a lot of that you've been leading the due diligence. Yeah. What were your favorite? I've got a couple of favorites in there that I talk about all the time. What were your favorites?
Yeah, I think Torch Dental. So they're a platform connecting dentists with suppliers, and typically this is an area where there's been a few large incumbents. There's been a lot of lawsuits in the area, but they make that a lot easier, running really high gross margins. Founders are phenomenal. Think of Harvard Business School. One of them's like a grandmaster in chess, all of that there.
Translated, way smarter than us.
That you don't even need to say that part.
Not Matthew, but way smarter than the rest of us.
Yeah.
But them, what are some of your favorites, Jeff?
I like Privacy Hawk.
Yeah.
So Privacy Hawk is one we invest. This is one that you'll appreciate. So you might remember Truebill, right? Truebill was this idea, and I think it was a Y Combinator. It was definitely a Y Combinator company, But it was the idea that it became Rocket Finance.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the idea that you've got all these unwanted subscriptions, and it will essentially crawl through everything you're signed up for and allow you to easily delete those subscriptions. That was Truebill. And Truebill, incidentally, was one that I invested in by way of the ZillaCap fund, Ryan Frazier, who was a Y Combinator grad, and it was a really big exit. $12 million basis on valuation and exit at $1.7 billion. So I wish I'd had more than a few nickels in there. We probably wouldn't be having this conversation. But so with that as the basis for the model, Privacy Hawk comes along, based in San Diego, right?
West Coast somewhere, yeah.
West Coast, somewhere in California, somewhere from off, in Ozark speak. The founder, very efficient, and what he does is the very same thing as Truebill, except he does it as it relates to your private information. So $75 a year, I think, is a subscription rate. It will go out and crawl the web and pull out everywhere where you have private information, allow you to delete it and get it out of there. And so 2022, 200,000 in top line sales. 2023, 2 million. 2024, the plan was to hit 20 million. I think they're on pace to do that.
Wow.
And he's already making money, very capital efficient. So we asked him during due diligence, we said, hey man, you've got 10 employees now at 2 million. What's it going to be when you go to 20? And he said, I don't know. I think we'll have to add 5 people. And so capital efficiency, that's an efficient model. So Privacy Hawk, you heard it here. Privacy Hawk is the name of it. That's one to look at. A lot of utility. It's one of those fear-based businesses, which I kind of like the ones that are fear or compliance-based, where you got to kind of have it. It's like insurance. And so that's one that I really like. And I'll talk about one more. This one's called Persimmon. And so if you listen to the famous scholar from Canada, who's our friend, Permjot Value, he says there's only 3 reasons anybody ever buys anything: fear, greed, or sex/ego/narcissism.
And it's still all rooted on fear.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
I guess that's right. But that, so in that category of narcissism or ego or sex, Persimmon brings aesthetics. So what you'd go to a med spa for, to the house. So in other words, you want to get shut up with Botox or whatever kind of easy cosmetic stuff. I have no idea. You can tell by all the wrinkles I've got. But what they'll do is they'll take all that sort of brick and mortar experience and they'll take it to your house with registered nurses and others that want to make extra money. So they came up with a very efficient model to deliver something in a compliant way to your home. And so that's another one. Persimmon is another one and it's been growing like gangbusters. That's another one you did the due diligence on, right, Matthew?
Yep.
Persimmon. So that's
Kenny Rogers is not a spokesperson for that one.
No, and he's long dead. So he folded.
He hasn't said much in a while.
Somewhere in the darkness, he broke even. I listened to that song a little too often.
You got to know when to fold them.
Yeah.
Those are a couple.
Yeah.
So a big part of Startup Junkie is our events. We had over 200 events last year in 2023, ranging from pitch competitions to networking opportunities to educational workshops. And these are always free for everyone to attend. They support entrepreneurs here in Northwest Arkansas, and we want to see you at Startup Junkie events. To learn more or sign up, visit startupjunkie.org.
And is it too late for me to get in on the Cadron Capital based on like 2 years ago's valuation?
Yeah, you can.
2 years?
Yeah, no, I mean, you get in now. Sure. We'll still take your money. We'll still take your money.
Sounds like it might be easier than what I'm doing.
Well, only because Brett and Matthew are kind of the drivers behind a lot of that, because Brett is tied in with this group called the LIGO Group, and they've brought in a lot of qualified deal flow from really kind of around the world. We have one Israeli company we invested in as well called Extend, which is really interesting. They control semi-autonomous drone technology. So not exploding pagers, but the next best thing. They can fly their drones in ways that give the IDF really good visibility into what's happening. But a lot of interesting stuff in Cadron.
Yep.
So you've been in the depths of all of it. You got any other favorites?
Monica and Andy just recently actually.
Talk about that one.
We finalized that one, right?
Yeah, I think we're in that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, so it's a baby brand company based in Chicago. Co-founders, one of them is actually founder of Bonobos, who sold to Walmart back in 2017 for, I want to say, $200-300 million, something in that range. Super smart, but in that area, it's kind of the same landscape there. You think of Carter's and a lot of these old brands that are kind of wore out. It's not fresh and new. They have 2 streams, D2C, wholesale. What's really exciting there is Walmart actually reached out to them and was like, hey, we want you to be like the face of baby. And that's a really big deal because, with Walmart, a lot of volume and everything. So with them being able to extend in that category and then also be able to extend other categories and be sort of the platform for organics within baby. Really excited about them. Great growth. Wholesale accelerator case could be up 3x next few years. Could go public. I mean, they have a lot of optionality exit-wise, but really impressed with the team. CFO, former banker, Chicago Booth graduate.
This is kind of a Cadron portfolio review, but another one. And this kind of highlights fuel, which I think is interesting or maybe topical for the audience. But we have one called Path Fertility, which is in the fuel health program that we run. And that one, a lot of times when you think about human fertility or you think about things like IVF or the other procedures, it's normally focused on the woman. And a lot of times, some of that stuff's pretty ineffective. And historically, they've forgotten the fact that it might be because it's the guy's issue, right? It could be a sperm count issue.
50% of the time, I think is what Andy said about that.
There you go. And so this group came through Fuel. They were originally from Utah, right?
Yep.
And moving to Bentonville. And so what excited us about it was they closed a deal with the provider that provides fertility services to all the Walmart employees. So a couple million covered lives.
Yeah, it was
right?
kind body.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Not sure that's confidential.
And the other thing is you look at the team. It's always about the team. So they have a team that has had a number of successful health tech exits in the past. So the founders were amazing. They had traction. And so that's another one that could be a game changer and solves a real problem. And you got a big client like Walmart, and you can imagine what else that expands to.
Yeah, and also with the Kind Body, who you're mentioning, they have a lot of other clients too that are like not the size of Walmart, but still at the corporates, and then also their competitor. There could be some interesting cross-selling opportunities, and even the exit scenario. For example, there was another company that got acquired, oncology diagnostics, that got acquired for $300 to $400 million pre-revenue, while Path Fertility is already showing substantial revenue, growing at a really quick clip. And it's just really interesting because not only is it the sperm, they're also going to be expanding into the women's side, cancer, and some other areas as well. So they could be a really good acquisition target.
Really great.
Is what'd you call it?
Pre-revenue.
Is that a fancy way of saying no sales yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is, by the way, this is not investment advice. This is not an offer to invest. You get that safe harbor SEC statement out there. We're just talking about
Just crawling across the screen.
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, don't send us any money. We don't want your money. This is, if the state securities or SEC are listening, it's not an offer to invest.
Well, hey, Jeff, I don't want to interrupt, but with Path Fertility, I think that's really a testament of Northwest Arkansas too, because of how they came to get the Walmart deal.
Yeah,
so
very full circle.
Yeah,
Talk about that. Talk about that a little more.
If I'm missing any details, let me know. So one of the co-founders went to Blake Street for a yoga class, met the head of Walton Enterprises, started talking a little bit about Path Fertility, and she was like, "Hey, that's really interesting. Like, let me get you connected with the right people." They met with Kind Body, explained what Path Fertility was, what they can do, and that's how it happened. I mean, it's
this is kind of the power of being in a place where you have the kind of caliber and level of folks that we have in a metropolitan service area of less than 600,000 people. That sort of connection would be impossible in New York or LA. You would never get access to them. You'd never run across those people. But that's one of the, I think, magic things about the area that's really pretty impressive.
Yeah. And as a result, too, getting the stakeholders who are, part of funding some of that programming in part to see the impact of what they're funding too, I think is impactful. Helps us a lot too. Yeah. So go ahead and throw that anecdote into any slide deck we have for that.
Exactly right. With our sponsors, Guinness, Bailey's, and is that Buffalo? That's not
Blanton's,
Buffalo. Blanton's. Future sponsors.
Distilled there.
Now, Jeff, in all the years you've been doing this, I know you guys keep track of this stuff. How many businesses have you guys consulted with?
Oh my God. It's about 2,000 these days, about 2,000 entrepreneurial engagements per year.
Wow.
And those are not all necessarily discrete businesses. So that's probably 1,000 or 800 a year. But over 15 years, it's got to be in the tens of thousands now, total businesses.
Wow.
So, and tomorrow we're going to actually have 25 of the best and brightest South Korean ventures that are going to be residing with us here for 6 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's sort of it's an accelerator program. It's the first time we've done one that's in residence with South Korean cohort. We've done a lot of stuff virtually. But yeah, we're seeing stuff from around the world at this point.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's good fun.
So it's no longer just regional.
No, we're like Pitbull. It's worldwide domination.
Worldwide. We're going to sponsor and they get the naming rights for Reynolds Razorback Stadium soon too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So kind of
Startup Junkie.
Follow Pitbull's model.
They'll call it Startup Junkie Stadium.
I'm sure the college wants the word junkie in the sponsor.
We get that feedback occasionally.
We're going to change the look. Though.
It's like, our branding has nothing to do with fentanyl or opiates, okay? Nothing at all. It's about being addicted to something good, which is helping people build great businesses.
I have a friend in...
And by the way, if you don't like that, think about what Elon Musk said to San Francisco. I'll leave it there.
I have a friend that's in Denver who once said he described entrepreneurial people as... He actually described it as a disease or an affliction.
Oh, it is. It's an affliction.
And he was
incurable.
He was saying it because he didn't understand it. He was a corporate guy and whatnot.
A corporate automaton is what you have to say.
Yeah, he was part of the board. He assimilated. So he actually worked for Microsoft for a long time.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, and actually you met him once, one of our early
Probably selling
podcasts. He was in
vaccinations.
town. Yeah, you met him, Steve.
Okay.
His
I remember
grandfather
Steve.
owned all of the Warren Livestock Company.
Oh, yeah, okay.
His grandfather,
Okay. I have
yeah.
no idea who you're talking about.
Well, yeah.
That guy you didn't like, yeah.
all the missile silos that you.
Oh, I do remember that guy. Yeah, okay. All right. Now,
Yeah.
as soon as we start talking nuclear weapons, I'm good. All right. I know who you're talking about.
No, but Northwest Arkansas is a pretty amazing place. You guys are you guys all from the area? No?
I'm from Fort Smith.
I'm from Forest City, East Arkansas.
From Oklahoma City.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
But that's the nature of Northwest Arkansas now.
It is.
It is. Yeah.
Like a giant
Visit, you
vortex.
stay.
Yeah.
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 As I kind of the origin stories over here to pass the baton over here to Daniel as someone who's the intern supreme, having seen what you've seen over the last few months and been a part of kind of the podcasting scene here that we do. I'd be interested your take from going A to whatever number we would say this is, whatever iteration V, whatever. Just get your take on your experience thus far with the podcast and Startup Junkie.
Well, I'll kind of give my
Let's put you in the
experience
hot seat.
more as a whole as just Northwest Arkansas first. We were talking about it in our last podcast that we had earlier this afternoon. We were kind of like joking, complaining. There are networking events every single day here in Arkansas.
That's
You
absolutely
could find a networking event from Bentonville to Fayetteville 5 days a week. And I just think that's pretty unique. Like, I come from Oklahoma City. I've always been pretty into entrepreneurship and innovation. And I look for those things there in high school, at least. Not a whole lot. You come here, it's all the time. So just the sense of community, and especially what Startup Junkie does, like, we do so many events. It's crazy. And
People can't believe how the operating tempo that you
They
guys.
think we have a team of 100 people.
Yeah, they're like, how in the hell do you do that?
Well, and as an outsider, I remember a few years ago, you were doing so many events. I'm looking at them on Facebook, and all I could sit there and goes, how the hell's Jeff got the time and energy to do all this stuff? You guys are doing them
It's
just
killing
so
me.
often.
It's killing me.
Yeah.
And then
It's killing me,
add
Smalls.
the early morning and late calls that you're on with Korea too.
Yeah.
No.
It keeps me young.
Yeah.
yeah, but I was just saying that kind of just the entrepreneurial community as a whole. It's pretty special here.
It is.
It really is.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
it's cool. It's cool to see. It's cool to be a part of. Startup Junkie team, obviously, we have a bunch of rock stars here.
Yeah.
Like everyone here's, no one has one task. Everyone here has like 24 tasks.
You gotta be a
that they're
Swiss-
doing simultaneously every single day.
You got to be a Swiss Army.
Lot
Yeah,
of Spanish
it's crazy. Everyone's doing everything. And I know you guys are joking, intern supreme. I still pick up coffee for 1 million cups every single week. You know, I'm the longest tenured intern here.
But
and
we don't make you make copies.
I don't make copies, but I still do the intern tasks. I still help set up her events.
I do have some stuff I need.
And you're,
Hey,
and you're
that's okay. I can bring it out for
you're
you.
co-host of the podcast. A little bit,
You know,
so.
but I'm still doing the intern tasks, and
Yeah.
it's been cool. It's been fun. It's just cool to see everyone working in so many different departments.
Yeah.
And Matthew is somebody that's been here, who's left, come back, and just kind of been a part of a few different iterations.
Come back twice.
Yeah. Right? A few different iterations of Startup Junkie. What keeps bringing you back?
You know, there's this saying, you don't know what you have until you don't have it anymore. And that's really true. I actually started here as an intern during my MBA program back in 2020, right before COVID. We were planning out the Techstars weekend, and that got canceled, so that was great. But it's been really interesting seeing the evolutions from the very first cohort with fuel to seeing where that's at now, to the Kiva micro-lending hub getting established, to just the cadence that we have with consulting and all the different team members we have. I mean, it's really exciting, and the impact's been shown in the ecosystem. I mean, Jeff, you started this in 2008, right?
Yeah, October 2008.
Yeah, I mean, just
day of infamy.
Give a little bit about what you've seen then versus now. Like, what have been all the changes that you've seen?
Well, so, I mean, and this is an old movie reference, but anyone ever wanted to watch The Jerk? He said, boy, I'm going to teach you the difference between shit and shinola. When we started, it was not very good, right? Brownfield sort of situation.
He still stepped in the shit.
More than once.
In case you haven't seen the movie.
And to give you an idea, I mean, we were primitive as hell, right? It was me and then eventually Brad and Jeanette. But the very first major event we held was a Gone in 60 Seconds elevator pitch contest, what became Idea Fame.
I remember that.
And it was at a place called Buck Naked Barbecue, ill-fated. Great branding, but ill-fated. And one of my students and her dad actually created it. And we were so primitive that we didn't even have a screen to project the order of the presentation. So we had to take one of the tablecloths and hang it up on the window to project. But so from those kind of primitive beginnings, we had no idea if people would even show up. That night we had probably 200 people that showed up, maybe 30 people to present. So we knew we were on to something. There was this sort of untapped desire that people wanted to start small businesses and startups in the area. And it just kept building and building all the way along. And now it's pretty well established. You go onto an entrepreneurial support organization call, which is monthly and chaired by the U of A, there's probably 65 people on every single month. And it's gotten to the point where we're so busy. I used to be able to attend all those and go to 1 million cups. I seldom get to those just because the activity is intense right now. So before, maybe one early stage angel fund in the state. Now there's lots of different avenues to raise early stage capital. Before, there was almost no one you could talk to for mentoring or support. Now you've probably got 15 entrepreneurial support organizations that are all really committed to empowering, inspiring, and educating entrepreneurs. So it's a 75-year journey if you use Silicon Valley as kind of the basis. We're 15 plus years into it, but it's amazing where we are today versus where we were in 2008. No doubt about it.
Did you clip that, Luke?
Yeah. I like that one.
I mean, we're at maybe the beginning of the end. The end of the beginning. I would be the better word. Whoa. That was a little dark. Alpha and Omega. No, we're at the end of the beginning of this journey, and leave that in there because it's good to have a goofy old guy occasionally. But, I guarantee you, I'm better off the cuff than Joe Biden any day of the week. Twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
But anyway, having said that, we're kind of at the stage where we've probably got another 60 years for this place to be what it can be. But just think about where Sam Walton was in the 1960s when he had a concept and he was rolling it out and he had a couple of stores to what it is today. It's these sorts of things. If you're building something of significance and can impact people, take a long time. And what will Startup Junkie be in 50 years? We've kind of beat the odds by being here 16 years. I think we can continue to be a big impact player, realizing that we're here to make sure that entrepreneurs and small businesses have the support they need, but can't afford to pay for themselves at those earliest stages of their business. So it's a mission that's easy to get excited about, I would say. I think that's why all of you are here. Absolutely. And that's why we do what we do, because you can see the impact. If you help somebody round off the edges of a bad idea or get them past a friction point and they end up building something and it goes to the next level, that's employing a bunch of people. That's building new products. That's helping consumers get some product or service that they didn't know they needed. And it's amazing what we get to do. We're really lucky.
Now, have you guys ever seen any bad ideas, pitches?
985 out of 1,000 are typically bad to start with, but they get better, right? It's a process of iteration.
Yeah.
Just a few.
Just a few?
Yeah, just a few.
Any like shockingly bad? Of course, we want to be nice, so you probably don't want to.
Yeah, we don't want to call anybody out.
Expose some people now.
Yeah.
I will say, I don't imagine this individual is watching this or listening to this, but I had, and I actually asked, after looking at his materials before the call, I asked Brett to jump on with me. I was like, I need one, just a witness.
Yeah.
I need a lifeline.
Yeah, just so that someone else
this client might be crazy.
Witness this as well and can vouch for what I'm saying, so people don't think I'm making it up. Individual who had a solution for global warming, and his solution.
Al Gore?
Yes, it was Al Gore.
Right after he invented the internet.
Yeah, wait. Yeah, I actually wouldn't.
That's the ticket?
It was Albert Gorenstein or something like that. But
Man, Bear, Pig? Sorry.
Hard to come back to that one. Man, beer, big. And his solution for defeating global warming, basically, you could sum it up to in his explanation to me, Brett, was, have you ever sprayed water onto hot concrete on a summer day and watched the water evaporate? Yeah. Well, just do that a ton. You could also get a spray rig at Tractor Supply and spray that water on a hot tin roof if you need to create enough cloud coverage to then push those clouds out into the ecosystem and generate enough rain to kind of counterbalance the negative effects of global warming. He said he needed approximately $100 million in investment. I told him that was probably not feasible. And he said, well, I could probably do with about $1 million. That's really not that much. So $1 million is quite a bit to me, and I think most people. He goes, okay, yeah, that's kind of a bit. It's kind of a lot. And then ended the call, him kind of explaining his interactions with Secret Service. So we kind of wrapped up that conversation pretty quickly.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was just one that sticks.
Occasionally,
that was the one that's kind of front of mind when we
get some
about
crazy
that,
MFers that walk through the door.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
And then we found his website, and his website, he was selling T-shirts to fund his work that said "Kill, insert every politician." And he said it was a joke. People didn't understand. This is just a joke. I'm just selling these as a joke.
Yeah, that's the kind of joke that.
And then we realized,
we'll get you the purple.
And they were saying, okay, maybe Secret Service did call you after all. So
Yeah, through the years, I think, Jeff, every once in a while, you've gotten somebody who probably needed somebody who was more of a Simon Cowell reviewer.
Oh, and
you sent him my way, or
I do. That's right. It's like, who do I want to F with today that's in the network? Who really needs to piss on this guy's Cheerios?
Put a big gong right here too.
So it's like, who do I know that has very little filter and will tell him that it's just a dog shit dumb idea? So
I've seen
a few.
Yeah. Also, even not just here, but I've traveled around the country working as a consultant for a company that I worked for. You can have a great idea today and it can last for 10 or 15 years. And eventually something changes and it's no longer a viable business.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing for entrepreneurs to do is to get to the realization that it's at that. And I'm guilty of that myself.
Timing's important.
Well, not only timing, but also being able to realize that it's over.
Yeah.
It's time to stop pushing money into it, clearing your 401k out, mortgaging your house, whatever else. But
cash incineration is not the way to make wealth.
No.
Yeah.
No. It's a good time.
While you have the cash to incinerate. It's better when it's other people's money.
Exactly.
When it's your own money, it really hurts.
OPM.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always good.
I think we need to land the plane at this point.
So.
I'm trying to think of who we didn't piss off during this 400th
I don't
episode.
know. We can kind of circle back another time to
circle back.
Yeah,
let's say some shit about Jen Psaki while we're at it. There's no political stuff in this podcast. So we hate everybody.
That's right. Equal opportunity offenders.
We work with everyone.
I'm going to prove it by staying home in November. I'm not going to go vote.
I don't know. Jill Stein's still on the ballot, right?
Who?
Jill Stein. You don't know who Jill Stein is? Man.
Nope.
Green, baby, green. Yeah, I don't know who the
Is it
Libertarian
Green Party?
candidate.
Right.
Jill
She's
Stein's
Green
too,
Party.
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't even know who's running Libertarian this year.
Well, I've been voting for a long time, and I can tell you I'm less excited today about my choices than I think I've ever been in my lifetime, and more concerned about the future of our great nation.
The key is entrepreneurship.
Save
Exactly.
We'll solve all
Save the
problems.
world. Because you have to
Take
make
another
enough
strong
money
nose.
so you can get your own island. And then
Exactly.
you can go somewhere
Through
else.
entrepreneurship, you create your own destiny.
Mhm.
Be like Dean Kamen, buy your own island.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
If there's any of those left, or we make our own islands like the Chinese, right?
I think P. Diddy's got one for sale.
I was about to say, I think there are a couple that are available right now.
Yeah. He's probably a
Probably in the real estate
You
market.
got to be careful when you talk about P. Diddy and liquidation. There's lots of ways to take
I
that.
was going to say, everything's going to need to be wiped down.
But if you're in the oil business, anyway. All right,
And then that
let's
high
land the
note-
plane.
And on that note, I don't know how we land the
Well, you know what? So stay tuned.
Yeah.
We're going to be around for an episode 500. We hope that you've enjoyed. Episode 400. And if you haven't, watch I Am Northwest Arkansas instead. How about that? All right.
If you would like to get your business in front of the Startup Junkies audience, sponsor the show. If you'd like to learn more about sponsoring the Startup Junkies podcast, email us at team@startupjunkie.org.